Hello everybody and welcome to the video. Before we get into the stories, I did have a special announcement to make. I am proud to be working with Dollar Shave Club. You heard that right, and you're probably wondering why. And the answer would be I have been a loyal customer for a couple of years, and receiving my monthly pack of hygiene items without having to deal with people in the store has been amazing. Not to mention now they cover all your hygienic needs. Dollar Shave Club now offers oral hygienic care as well. From the hair on your head to the hair on your face to the hair on your nether regions and even your legs for you ladies, all the way to your toothpaste and toothbrushes, to body wash, and even getting a little naughty with some butt wipes. Oh yeah, butt wipes. Dollar Shave Club is the one-stop shop to get all your hygienic needs delivered right to your door. You literally don't have to see a single person, which is absolutely amazing. I also really want to add that I have been a customer for years, and I highly recommend everyone checks out the link in the description, dollarshaveclub.com/Urmaker, just to go check out their selection and find what's right for you. Seriously, go give it a try. I gave it a go a couple of years ago and I've been a monthly user ever since, so I 100% stand behind what I'm saying. I recommend the monthly executive pack. It covers everything I need. Body wash, razor heads, shave butter, butt wipes, and even some reading material for the bathroom, which is oddly entertaining. And don't forget this cool cardboard box. So if you want to help support the channel as well as help yourself, make sure you click that link down in the description. And I also want to give a huge thank you to Dollar Shave Club for teaming up with me, because I love you guys. Alright, and without any further ado, let's begin. This happened 5 years ago, 2 weeks before my 15th birthday. My family, parents, younger brother, and I, a male, had just moved into a relative's house since ours was being remodeled and repainted. It was just a matter of 1 month, but my brother and I were still pretty excited to be moving to a new house. The day we moved, our parents had to go to a friend's birthday party, but since it was a school night, my brother and I stayed home and had pizza for dinner. When the clock hit our bedtime, we went to bed almost immediately. Our parents are pretty strict about curfews. I should mention that in this new house, we were sharing this room that had a single bed in the corner and a mattress that we had got from our old place on the floor parallel to the door. I got the bed and my brother slept on the floor. We switched off all the lights, saved the nightlight, and went to bed. But instead of sleeping, we started chatting. We hadn't shared a room in forever. While we talked, I felt like I heard something downstairs a couple of times, but I wasn't sure. I was certain that it wasn't my parents, though. My mom had a habit of coming into our rooms to ensure we were asleep every time my parents came back from an outing at night. So I asked my brother if he heard anything, and naturally he told me I was a moron and flipped me off. I didn't hear anything anymore, so I went to sleep. Right when I was about to drift off, I felt something crawl into my bed with me, something that was shaking like a leaf in a tornado. I almost screamed, but soon realized it was my brother. He wasn't shaking. He was crying. He told me that there was someone outside the door. I didn't even think he was joking. He was too shaken up to do that, and I could see tears on his cheeks thanks to the nightlight. I almost immediately realized that he must have seen someone through the gap between the door and the floor. His bed was placed in such a way that if he was to lay on his side, he was facing the door. I stood abso-fucking-lutely still for 10 seconds, whispering to my brother to hide under the bed, moved very slowly toward the door without making any noise, and deadbolted it. Despite my best efforts, it did make a loud click noise. Not a second later, I swear I saw the knob turn, and with great force too. The person tried the knob a few more times, then started banging on the door, not saying a single word. The whole time I was leaning up against the door, scared that it would give in if the person was super strong. Looking back, I realized that wasn't possible. Thank God. They banged on the door for like 10 minutes straight, and I joined my brother in his crying, and quite audibly so, now that I think about it. What I realize is they must have definitely realized that we were just kids. When the banging stopped, we heard the person run downstairs, but neither my brother nor I dared to move an inch. We didn't have cell phones in the room either, and I sure as hell wasn't going to check if it was safe. When my parents finally did get home, they started shouting at us, because the front door was wide open. Only when they came to our door and we heard their voices, individually confirming that they were our parents indeed, did we open the door. The police were called. They checked the house and made sure it was safe for us. What was weird was that nothing valuable was missing. Everything from my dad's work laptop to our PlayStation was untouched. I don't think they ever did catch the person, because we never got a call from the police. I was on my way back home from the city center at about 9 or 10 p.m., and I had a sandwich with me. I have to take this bus to get home with maybe 16 stops until mine, which is not a busy stop. Usually only me and sometimes one more person get off there. I got on the bus at the back door, and the minute I sat down, this drunk guy comes up to me and asks me if I speak Hungarian. There are relatively a lot of beggars around here, so I'm not surprised. I say no, a lie, so I avoid further conversation. He then starts speaking to me in English and asks me if I could give him some money for food. I say, no, I haven't got any Hungarian currency on me right now. Again, a lie because I just wanted to eat my damn sandwich. This guy then proceeds to signal me to give him a piece of my sandwich and almost breaks a piece off of my sandwich. So I say to him, sorry dude, no offense, but I just want to eat my sandwich. At first he seems pretty chill about it, but this is when it gets interesting. He sits back on his seat 3 seats behind me and I notice he's not alone. He is with 2 equally drunk gentlemen. The bus now closes its doors and starts. As I'm eating my sandwich, I hear these guys talking shit about me in Hungarian, assuming I don't understand it. Shit like, man, this dickhead won't give me a piece of his sandwich. What a prick. Man, I would so bash in his head with glass. I'm so angry. I hear them agree on getting down at my stop so they can beat me up. I've never had to deal with a situation like this, so I start to think, and come to the conclusion that my best option is to get down at my stop and run home, not on the usual route, like hell, because I can easily outrun 3 30-year-old drunk guys. Meanwhile, because I'm focused on what I'm doing, I don't touch my sandwich. Maybe a quarter of it remaining. This got them even angrier. Hey man, he didn't even finish his sandwich. I bet he goes home and throws it in the trash. Then one of them said he murdered someone in his dream. The other one says he dreamt the same thing too and that this is not a coincidence. I'm there like, surely they aren't that barbaric assholes. But I was wrong. I hear them discussing my height, weight, and buffness, and agree that they can take me easy 3-on-1. At this point, I'm sweating and thinking about other options because my stop is coming up. We're heading into the suburbs. The bus is starting to get empty. Then I realize that I could pretend I get off somewhere and hope that they get off, so I decide to do that. At the last relatively busy stop before my stop, I stood up and went to the front door where 4 other people stood waiting to get off. The bus stops and I start going towards the door, but stop when they can't see me. Surprise, surprise, they got off. The guy starts walking to my door calmly, because there were other people at the stop. But when he got to my door, luckily it closed. I checked if anyone got off with me at my stop, though. I think this could have gone so much worse, and I was lucky to get the best case scenario. A little bit before Christmas in 2015, my now ex-husband and I moved about 12 kilometers away from the city we had been previously living in, to a house that we could rent cheaper, which was near an area I grew up in without having to commute too far to work. In doing so, the cheaper rented accommodation was in a slightly dubious area, and we should have known better. We moved in beside a couple who had a little boy, and from the first night we moved in we could hear them arguing, and what sounded like her being beat up and strangled in between screaming. My ex runs out and knocks on the door to see if her and the child are okay. Bad move. He was met with a very hostile reaction from the man getting up in his face saying he needs to mind his own fucking business. The woman told him to get off her front porch or they'll make him get off it. Blah blah. My ex just comes back inside and is like, "What the fuck? Okay?" We quickly realize their home is a drug den, with multiple rough zombie-looking folks going through their door on the daily, some of whom I recognized from over the years of us being teenage stoners, many of whom didn't like me, nor my ex over petty drama from years gone by. Fast forward a fortnight or so, with the screaming and violence going on most days and nights, and I drive home from work one evening to find 2 rubbish bins in the driveway that didn't belong to us. I presume they belonged to the neighbors, so I wheel them over to the front of their house. My ex gets back a little after me and finds the bins at the front door, and asks what they're doing there, and I tell him that they were there earlier too. He wheels them back over to the neighbor's door. We go away for a couple of hours and come back to find the bins back in our driveway yet again. So this time we go over and knock on our neighbor's door asking what the fuck they're doing with their bins. And the man comes out saying, "What the fuck little game do you two think you're playing at taking our fucking bins? You have no idea who you're messing around with. Nobody takes my property and questions me about it. Watch your back," etc., and goes back inside. Our houses were attached, so we could hear the loud and obviously aggressive talking going on, presumably about us, to whoever else was in the house at the time. A few of the men shone flashlights in our windows and stood outside our house looking up and banging at the windows, and from inside their house walls at night, until some point we must have just given up worrying about it and fell asleep. The next night at about 9:30 p.m. I hear a lot of commotion outside, and someone pounding hard on the door. I open the door and 3 men are standing there shouting at me, and the guy from next door says, "Where's your boyfriend? What did I tell you both about stealing from me? You took our coal." At this point, my boyfriend, who was in the shower upstairs, is coming downstairs in a bathrobe. I'm obviously saying, and pretty much laughing, "Why on earth would I take a bag of coal? You cannot possibly be fucking serious." And he's all, "Oh yeah? Well, what's that in your back garden, huh?" I go through to the back garden and sure enough there's a bag of coal lying there. I say, "You obviously fucking planted it there." My boyfriend starts shouting, saying, "Get a life. Leave us alone. I can see what you're trying to do. Just fuck off." Shuts the door and locks it and throws the bag of coal back over the fence to their garden. Multiple people from the house then once again proceed to shine lights to intimidate us in the front and back windows. At the back of our house there was a little hill so you could see straight in from the back. For the next maybe half hour or so. The woman who lived next door obviously returned from wherever she had been, and we hear her voice booming from outside screaming something along the lines of, "Come outside here, I'm going to kill you! Put it in the windows. Put it in the windows now." My boyfriend angrily unlocks and opens the door, and a bunch of guys force their way in and pull him out of the house. 4 of the guys jump him and start beating him. Others smash my car windows, slash my tires, and put in the front windows of our house. The woman sent out a young scumbag girl to attack me, but thankfully the girl was a lanky twig like me, and kind of gave up after I was clawing at her aimlessly while hysterically screaming and crying at what they were doing to my boyfriend. The quiet elderly couple who lived in the house next to theirs had thankfully called the police, and after they arrived an ambulance was called for my boyfriend, who was taken to the hospital. And after talking to the police, what I could gather is that they had broken the handle off their back door, smashed the glass on the door, messed up their entire kitchen, and said that my boyfriend had broken in and was violent towards their child and hurt him, stole money and other shit from their house, then took the bag of coal and left it laying in our garden. All I could think of was, so my boyfriend supposedly did all this while a bunch of men were all in the house just sitting around while this is happening. I called our landlord, who arrived pretty much immediately after I called. At this point, it was pretty late at night, and he brings his son and brother with him who are basically standing guard. And he told me that he's had the same problem with these people before. Thanks for the heads up. And people often move out early because of them. That the guy and the woman both have lengthy criminal records, and that their landlord is literally scared to force them out because of the threats he received from them in the past. That they're in massive arrears and that they've been threatening the older couple who lived beside them too. My landlord and his family help me bag every single thing we own up, clears the place and makes multiple runs with me and all our stuff to a friend's place that we would have to stay with temporarily. The next morning he returned our deposit and also gave me the month's rent we had paid back, saying I would need it to sort out the windows of my car, etc., which he had removed from my driveway and taken to my friend's place. At least the landlord was nice. They had broken my boyfriend's nose, which he needed surgery for, but other than that he was, thankfully, just battered and bruised with a swollen face and black eyes. We were harassed by them and their friends on Facebook for weeks following the incident, and they even put up statuses about us on Facebook saying all the awful things my boyfriend had done to them. They had taken pictures of us at some point too, because they had attached the pictures to the statuses to alert people what we looked like. Be careful of these people, making themselves out to be the victim. We were easily more than a decade younger than them. Fast forward to today, and the guy is locked up for something or another. Their child is in care. Thank goodness. That poor little guy looks so uncared for, pale and sad. And I don't know what she is up to other than uploading Shrek-looking selfies to the internet. I'd like to begin by describing myself, because I believe it's relevant to the story. I'm 25, male, and a bit above average height. I have been doing sports 5 through 6 times a week since I've graduated high school. Gym, running, CrossFit, squash, swimming, and any team sport my friends decide to play at any given time. My favorite hobbies are mountaineering, hiking, and bouldering. I've just recently purchased a new pair of high-altitude mountaineering boots because it's near the end of the summer season and they were on sale. The plan is to wear them in the Alps next summer on a few ascents. I live in a European capital, one that's surrounded by wonderful nature with many trails and opportunities for hiking. I decided to break in my boots last Saturday, more specifically because it would have been my granddad's birthday, and he also loved hiking before he died. These boots are overkill for these woods, but I needed to try them. I selected a nice route that's about 25 kilometers and set off at about 9 in the morning. It rained just the day before, so I expected a fair amount of mud and not so many people as they are easily scared off by the weather. Since the summer was excruciatingly hot, it was a nice change of temperature, especially between trees and such, where it's a few degrees cooler than in the city. In the not-so-distant past, my dog would have definitely joined me on the hike, but she's turning 14 this year, and she doesn't enjoy long-distant walks anymore. My girlfriend had to do something for work on short notice, so I knew from the moment I woke up I would be doing the hike alone. The first half of the hike was perfect. The altitude difference along the trail is minimal. I barely broke a sweat, and I misjudged how many people would be out due to the storm the day before. I met at most 6 through 7 people during the first 2 through 3 hours, and most of them were cross-country runners. It's worth mentioning that I wasn't walking quickly. I stopped on many occasions to take pictures or study animal tracks. There are deer and wild boars in these woods, nothing more menacing. Not animals anyway, but I won't get ahead of myself. Between 12 and 1, the path ran into an actual road, one where cars can go. This road is asphalt, but deep in the forest and can only be used to reach certain landmarks that are mostly in the forest, so cars seldom go here. My trail required me to take this road for a few hundred meters. As I was walking along the road, I heard a car approaching from behind me. It went past me, not too quickly or too slowly. It was an older green SUV with a fresh registration. You can tell by the license plate. Probably an import. Anyway, I thought nothing of it at the time. Then I heard it come back. It drove past me for the second time, now very slowly, and I could clearly see two men sitting in the front seats, wearing baseball caps and sunglasses. Both had stubble/beard game going on as well. I assumed that they were gamekeepers, even though those cars have a crest on the hood and on both the front doors. As I hike a fair amount, I know these things. I see them around quite a bit. They would also not be driving a car like this. They have Jeeps which are much more suitable for the forest. Still, I felt no discomfort, and again I thought nothing of it. Then my trail left the asphalt road and began snaking in the woods again. I walked ahead serenely, gazing at the trees and whatnot. Then I suddenly had the strange sensation that something or someone was behind me. An engine was becoming more and more clear as well. At this point the trail was quite narrow, but if for some reason you'd want to drive a car on it, you could. Just about. When I turned around, the aforementioned SUV was basically in my face. It was an arm's length away from me, and it stopped just as I had. I looked at the driver, who was staring back, as I can only assume as he was wearing sunglasses. I calmly asked him, "What's wrong? Shall I let you go?" in a polite tone as his window was rolled down. He didn't speak. He slowly started reversing, and soon he disappeared behind a curve. Now I was quite uncomfortable. I also noticed that he was alone in the car, unlike earlier. I listened intently, standing still since I wasn't sure what was going on. At this point I was not scared, but there was a faint feeling of unease in the air, and bad thoughts began gathering in the back of my mind. I heard the car, and the engine, stop behind the curve. I heard a door open and shut, but nothing from that point on. I turned around and began walking towards my destination at a much faster pace than before. Now I was a bit scared. I didn't understand why he didn't answer, and why he just reversed and left me without a word. I wasn't sure what to make of it, and I had no desire to ask him again, or to see him again for that matter. I had just walked enough for these unpleasant thoughts to slowly be erased from my mind. As I had been drinking a lot of water, as I usually do, I decided to take a piss. I saw a perfect spot, a very narrow path off my trail that led quite clearly to a little hunting tower. I walked over to the tower, put my bag down on the ladder that led up to it, and began pissing. I was also interested in checking Google Maps to see where I was, but since there was no signal, I decided to check my map. I also had a sip of water. I had been camping there for a few good minutes before I headed back to the trail where I deviated to take a leak. Right before I arrived back to the main trail, I thought to myself how extremely quiet it was. No wind, no noise of any kind, absolutely nothing. This made me realize just a moment later how alone I was, except for the man who was standing maybe 50 meters away from me on the trail, in the direction where I was headed. I only saw this as soon as I stepped back onto the trail, since the small one to the tower was well hidden by trees and you couldn't see the main trail, as it was running perpendicularly to the small one. I looked at him, and I was instantly chilled to the very bone. He was dressed in tactical clothing, with a baseball hat on his head. The only reason he was standing still, I believe, was a moment of surprise that I had appeared from a place where he didn't expect me to appear from. At this point, I was fully and utterly alarmed, He was holding a rifle that had a scope on it. Had this happened without the incident with the SUV, I probably would have walked on along the trail thinking he's a hunter. However, in light of the strange encounter with the SUV, from which the second man was missing, something in me snapped instantly. In hindsight, it was also illegal to hunt in these woods this time of year. In the matter of 2 seconds, I figured that I was going to sprint through the woods until exhaustion, towards and past the tower, as it seemed natural to do at the time. If there was no malicious intent on this man's behalf, or the others, he'll just think I'm an idiot and forget about me in 2 minutes. If I'm right, it's the best call I will have ever made. And for fuck's sake, he began running towards me. Adrenaline blossoming in me, I began sprinting away. I sprinted past the tower and deep into the bushes, not sparing my legs as I was wearing shorts and a thermal jumper. I crashed through the branches, small trees, and slipped on several occasions. I really did sprint until I was exhausted. It must have been several kilometers. I even crossed some smaller trails, but didn't even bother to look either way. My pulse was a billion the whole time. I began checking my phone for signal, but nothing. I was already really angry at myself for not memorizing the license plate. After a while, I began power walking, but still off trail, straight ahead, in a direction that I knew would sooner or later lead me out of the woods. When my phone got a signal, I told the story to several people frantically, but no one took me too seriously. They said I was overreacting and whatnot. You must have misunderstood the situation. Well, I'll let you decide for yourselves if I did or not. Finally, I reached the trail that led directly to a cute little town that borders this rather large forest. It felt like eternity, but I walked the last kilometer to the main square, took off my jumper, and I put it in my bag. At least I looked a little different from far away. I waited for a bus that took me back to the station near my car, rather anxiously. After the bus ride, during which I studied each car on the road, I walked back to my car, got in, and drove home. My dog welcomed me like I was coming back from a 2-year deployment. Dogs are just amazing. She must have felt that something shook me up. I spent the afternoon contemplating my life in the bathtub. The boots destroyed my feet, but they aren't meant to be sprinted in for large periods of time. I called the forest gamekeeper's office. I inquired about whether they had such cars in service as the ones I came across. They did not. Their gamekeepers also didn't typically work in pairs. Like 99.9% of the time, they are alone. I told them my story, and they took me a lot more seriously than my friends did, but they assured me that the police wouldn't. No one could have been legally hunting in that area during the summer either. I've been reading local news, but nothing extraordinary has been reported yet. I really hope nothing will be reported either. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you would like to help support the channel, make sure you check out the link down below for the Dollar Shave Club. dollarshaveclub.com/Urmaker. Seriously guys, we finally hit the big times. We got a company that actually will work with us. Take that, YouTube! My videos are suitable for advertisers, you liars. On that note, I once again want to give a big thank you to Dollar Shave Club. It truly is awesome to team up with you guys. I appreciate everyone checking out this video, and I will catch you in the next one. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true. Bye. I was born and raised in the country. Living in this lifestyle meant that I had a lot of responsibilities even at very young ages. The story in question takes place on my 6th birthday. I remember how excited my parents were. They had been talking about this day for a month. They had some big plans. They were going to go out to dinner at the fanciest restaurant, and I was going to get to stay at home alone. I remember at first being sad that they were leaving me, but then I realized that I was being left home alone for the first time ever, meaning they trusted me enough and thought that I was a big boy. I wanted and needed to prove to them that I was a big boy. At about 7 p.m. they gave me the rundown of the rules. First, if anything major was to happen, to dial 911 using the landline. This was before cell phones. The second rule being don't open the door for strangers. The third rule was for me not to touch any of their alcohol, which they told me they kept in the safe, and they said that the combination was not 12-47-19. Personally, I think they were letting me know that I could have a drink, that they trusted me because I was a big boy now. And in all honesty, a scotch sounded amazing. The fourth and final rule was that I was not allowed to have any electricity in use. I was to sit on the living room couch the entire time they were gone, in the dark, as to be really sneaky and incognito, like a ninja in the night, not visible unless I want to be seen. The way they explained it sounded amazing, so I told them to get out of here and that I was ready to be a big boy. They left and I locked the door behind them, promptly making my way over to the couch and sitting down. I can't say exactly how much time passed. I was pretty lost in my thoughts, being it was my 6th birthday, and I was home alone all by myself, like a big boy. Then I started hearing scratching on the roof. The scratching slowly turned to thumping. Me being a big boy, I decided to sit there and let it play out. After all, no one would know I was inside if it was a person, but most likely it was just a wild animal, probably a raccoon or something. After a few more moments of me just sitting there, I start to hear clawing around the sides of our house. Now, had this situation happened the day before, I would have ran instantly up to my room and hid under the covers, possibly even dial 911. But since I was a big boy, I sat there, sneaky like a ninja, hidden in the night. And then I heard knocking at the door. "Hey kid, I know you're in there. How about you open up this door? I brought some candy." Now, I will admit the thought of getting up and opening the door crossed my mind, but I was not about to show my parents that I was not a big boy. So I sat there, still, like a ninja in the night. The guy kept knocking. "Hey boy, I see you. Come here, open up this door. I got some good candy. You ever had this Lucas powder? It's really good. You should put it on your tongue, it tastes awesome. I eat so much it rips my tongue apart. It's addicting, kid. You're gonna want some. Open up this door." The thought of something so good that it was addicting really intrigued me, and it was at that moment that I decided that I was a big boy. I can open the door. So that's what I did. I walked to the front door, and I tried to look through the peephole, but it was too high for me to look through. I unlock my door and slowly open it. Just as the door starts to open, the man pushes his way in. He flips on the light switch and then just stares at me. "Hey, don't say anything to your parents. I'm a friend of your mom's. I forgot something when I was over here earlier." I didn't recognize this guy, but I was more upset with the fact that I didn't see any candy. I asked him if he had any candy, and he said that he had lied, that he just really needed to get his stuff out of here. He promptly runs into my parents' room. I hear shuffling around before he dead sprints straight out of the house, slamming the door behind him. I'm standing there baffled, wondering where my candy is. Then it occurs to me that if my parents come back and they see the lights on, they won't consider me a big boy. I lock the door, turn the lights off, and sit back on the couch, once again like a ninja in the night. My parents arrive home shortly after. They asked me if I had any issues while they were out. I mentioned that there was a guy knocking on the door, but I wasn't opening it because I was a big boy and a sneaky ninja in the night. My father walks up and pats me on the head, looks me in the eyes with a big smile and says, Happy birthday, kiddo. You're a big boy now. I'm not your real dad." I was in awe. I look over at my mom with tears in my eyes. She reaches down and pats me on the head as well.
"And I'm not your mom, Timmy. I got you from Angela down the street for a couple dozen eggs. We just thought since you were a big boy you should know. Have a good night. Happy birthday. Don't knock on the door. We're busy."
And with that, they disappeared into their bedroom. The next morning, I woke up and went out to the living room and everything was gone. The couch, the television, everything. I ran to my parents' room to let them know we had been robbed. I opened the door, and to my horror, everything is gone. I bolt to the front door about to make my way outside, when I noticed the note on the door. "Hey, kiddo. Since you're a big boy and all, we decided we'd move out and let you have this place. We figured we should let you know the rent is $750 a month. Electric usually runs around $200. Water and sewer is paid, but other than that, you gotta figure it all out, man. Good luck, dude. We've been waiting for you to become a big boy. Go take the bull by the horns. Not literally, because you'll probably die. In the refrigerator, you'll find a jar of pickles. If you ration it right, it should last about 3 days. After that, you might want to make a trip to the grocery store. I left 75 cents on the counter to help you with your newly found expenses. We're proud of you, big boy. Have a good life." I sat there in shock. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was extremely scared. But as a big boy, I knew I could handle myself. I went and grabbed a pickle from the refrigerator, and then sat on the living room floor. It felt so good to finally be a big boy.